Yeah, here we are. We have made it.
We've done it.
Okay, we get this question a lot. ¿Cuánto tardaste en aprender español? How long did you take to learn Spanish? Ruben, por favor, enlighten us. You are the polyglot here. You speak in tons of languages, so maybe one language took longer than the other. What do you speak? 5. English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Hebrew, learning many more. I only speak 2, English and Spanish. I know my response, pero yo quiero saber your response. A ver.
Spanish was first. I mean, it was second, but it was first as a second language. So, it's definitely, over time, technically it's taken the longest, but, just to get to that fluent part, it was also the one that had the learning curve the most. So the other languages for sure were facilitated by the Espanol, but 10 years.
What you would say that because of specific 5 years? 5 years until what? Until you're yes, I speak fluent Spanish?
Well, I mean, that was the thing, when the first 5 years for me was college and education in the literature and grammar. So you were I guess I can use it. I know it, but you never really speak it like we do today, So it's do I speak it? I didn't really find out until I went, traveling, and so it's then you don't realize until you get there and you're what was I studying? But so having that base plus maybe a year of the being there, so that kind of adds the 5 years together.
But okay, so are you counting as 1 year of college an entire year's time?
No, I'm counting 4 years of college and then the 1 year after, where it was.
No, I mean what I'm getting at is you'd say okay, I just did a year of college of Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Are you counting that as an entire year?
Yes.
Okay.
Because what else? I mean, how many hours? How many? Because this is also maybe a question for everybody else. Does it matter?
Right.
How much
that reminds me when you ask. Yeah, when you ask hours, that reminds me of the classic example. I think you've heard of it, or maybe you have, the 10,000 hours till perfection. And to me personally, I learned bits and pieces. I never learned traditional. I never was in the classroom like you were. I did a couple things here and there, but it was few and far between. Me personally, I kind of sat down to start to learn it with a friend who tutored me for about 8 weeks, but every day I was practicing. It got to a point where I was practicing every single day and for about a year's time. And then after that year, I moved to Argentina, and I lived in Argentina for another several years. But I would say within a year and a half of living in Argentina, plus that speaking every day for a year prior in the States to my Spanish-speaking friends, I would say around that amount of time. For me personally, it was how long it took me, about 2.5 to 3 years, speaking and making mistakes every single day. And so that's what I usually try to tell people. It's 2.5, 3 years. If you're speaking and making mistakes every single day, then you'll be fluent.
Yeah, speaking and making mistakes every day.
Exactly.
But making mistakes and then getting feedback on the mistakes.
Right. Even or better. I mean, being aware of your mistakes, right? Something, meaning mistake being okay, you just made a mistake, and now you know what the correct solution is to that mistake. Exactly. Because we're always making mistakes every single day. We're not getting the right feedback. That's where you and I come in.
That's true. We come in. We're there.
So yeah, I would say 2.5, 3 years speaking and making mistakes every single day to get to a fluent position. Ruben would say 5. So our powers combined, 4 and some change?
Yeah, just cut it in half,
Yeah.
So
obviously you could do it. I think that you could do it faster, but it would require, a combination of several hours a day classroom, several hours a day of speaking.
Maybe also important is just to make sure where your end goal is, because I think you could probably get to a point in Spanish, for ejemplo, that you would say okay, I just want to learn how to say 2 minutes worth of conversation. I won't get deeper than what's going on. This is what I did last weekend. My friend's tall, you can get to a certain level where that's achieved in less than a year, for sure.
Yeah. What point did you realize that you were fluent? What was that moment?
I think it's where you have a conversation.
Oh, no. I'm saying for you personally, when did you go, oh, wow, this is it. I'm fluent. I did it.
It must have been, I don't know if there was a moment, but it must have been one of those times in the first year in Buenos Aires where I was like writing couch surfing messages in Spanish only. I was like relying on it, getting an apartment, meeting people, and like, you know, those places where you really couldn't speak English. That's where I was like, I'm doing it.
Ahora sí.
Ahora sí.
For me, it was, I can kind of remember two moments. One was when I first moved to Argentina, back in a long time ago, 7 years ago when I moved to Argentina. No, I moved to Argentina in August of 2007. And I started to put together like a tour company. I had a bar tour company. And I had to communicate with these bartenders and these business owners so that they understood what service I was going to be bringing them. And I remember it was really hectic because my tour was on its way to this bar and I had to run ahead and the bar wasn't ready yet. And I was like, okay, no, lo que necesitamos son 50 shots de así, vamos a entrar y vamos, and like, ¿entendés? And he's like, sí, entiendo. I'm like, and I kept like every sentence I would say, I'd be like, ¿entendés? And he'd be like, sí, entiendo. And so the conversation really flowed really well. And at like one point I was just like, lo logré. And then another moment was when I was also having another conversation with a business owner of a nightclub in Buenos Aires at 3 a.m, because that's when clubs get started in Argentina. And I was in his office as we were looking out over the club through a window. And he was just like, oh, you know, you guys, he's like this mafioso guy. And he's like, you guys come here every Friday, blah, blah. I want to work out a deal. And I was like, yeah, claro, obvio. Oh, trabajar así con ustedes por meses y no sé qué. And he was like, exacto. And it was just like this moment of euphoria that like I just accomplished a deal in Spanish flawlessly. Yes. And it was a good feeling, man. So we would love to hear more about you guys' feelings. If you guys had that aha moment, or if not, or how you would imagine it, comment below. My name is Dustin Luke. This is Ruben Attery. We are Spanish Speaking Hacks, and we hope to see you on the other side.
We'll see you soon.